Okay. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Am I audible? Okay. Thanks for the confirmation. And my screen is also visible, right? Oh, okay. Okay. Let me start the recording and then we'll start the session. Okay, the recording is on. Hello everyone, welcome to the batch 2 of our free Splunk SIM bootcamp for 10 days, right? So in this session, we are going to cover, so in previous batch, when we started, it was for 5 days, but then it got extended to 10 days. So we have converted the syllabus and from this batch, it will be a 10 days. And we also have a new syllabus, which I'll give you a walkthrough in few minutes, right? So before getting started, let me see how many people joined. Okay, just 1 minute, guys. I'll drop a message. Okay, no problem. Okay, let's get started. So we are going to see the agenda for today. So in today's agenda, what we are going to see is bootcamp syllabus walkthrough, right? So I was saying, right, we have revised the syllabus. So let's go through what is the syllabus for the 10 days, and then we'll start with the day one syllabus, that is SIEM and SOAR introduction. And we'll see the Splunk introduction. What are the components in Splunk, and what are the phases that is involved in the Splunk data pipeline. And we'll also see why we have multiple components, different components in Splunk, right? So these are the topics which we are going to cover today. And there will be an assignment which we'll give you with a video, which you can refer and come back for the next session, right? So now I'll go for the bootcamp syllabus, right? I hope my screen is still visible. You are able to see the document, right? Okay. Okay, right. Great. So this is the syllabus for new syllabus, right? So day 0, like yesterday in the group I have posted, right? There were prerequisites for day 0. So we have gone through the network devices and security devices in the previous batch, right? So you please take those videos, and I hope you have watched it. If not, please sit back and watch it, right? So that gives an understanding of why we are going for SIM and SOAR, all those things, right? Why we are entering into the cybersecurity. So these things are covered in the previous videos, which I have shared the link yesterday, right? So that is the prerequisites. If you have not watched it, please go back today and watch it right after the session. And then the day one, right, what we are going to see is SOC team overview, that will be seeing, like there will be a lot of levels, right? L1 SOC, L2 SOC, L3 SOC. So what are they doing? So those things we'll be covering. And we'll also see SIEM and SOAR introduction. And we'll have the Splunk introduction, the day one agenda, whatever I have gone through, right? And finally, I have 2 videos for you as an assignment. So this is the syllabus for day 1. And day 2, there is something called MSSP, right? Any clue what that is? Okay, right. So MSSP is nothing but a managed security service provider, right? So we'll see what is it, and we'll also see the introduction for it, and then we'll dive into the hands-on from tomorrow's session. So we'll be creating a Splunk SIM environment where we'll install the Splunk in 3 different servers, and we'll connect all the components with each other. And we'll also see what is the role-based access control and workload management. So this is for day 2. And day 3, we'll be onboarding the data from 3 different sources: Windows, Linux, and Syslog, into our SIM environment, SIEM environment. And then day 4, we'll see how to implement, how to install and configure the SOAR. And we'll also see how to integrate the SIEM with SOAR. So this is the day 4. So all these are going to be hands-on. And day 5, right? So till previous step, we have configured till connecting the SIEM and SOAR. In day 5, we'll see a use case where we'll take a brute force attack as an example, and we'll set an end-to-end environment of the this is nothing but an implementation of MSSP, right? We'll see an end-to-end setup of how to create the environment, and then how the attack simulation happens in the backend and how we the SOAR will prevent it, right? So we'll see an end-to-end use case in day 5 and 6. In day 5, we'll be setting up the environment, and in day 6, we'll see how to create playbooks and how to trigger those, right? And we'll also get started with the dashboard development, right? Part 1. And day 7, we'll proceed with the dashboard development part 2. And we'll also see how to create reports and alerts, how to configure an SMTP server, right, for alert to send the email, right? So we'll be seeing how to do that. And day 8, we'll see Splunk Enterprise Security Introduction. So in day 8, we'll be covering the important terminologies which you should know for before you are entering into Splunk Enterprise app itself, right? Before, like, most people think enterprise security app, if you know that, you know Splunk, right? But no, it's not like that. Before you touching the app itself, you should know some terminologies. Only then you will be able to use the app effectively. If not, if you go back and if you open the app, right, you won't be able to understand anything, right? So those terminologies which we'll be covering. And then day 9, we'll see query writing, right? So this is also one of the important topics which many people requested us. So query writing, we have taken that into consideration for the day 9. So we'll be covering some use cases on security and observability. And then day 10, we'll see the introduction for the Splunk ITSI and observability, right? So all the introduction parts will be covered in the free bootcamp itself. So these are the syllabus for all the 10 days. I hope this is clear. Any doubts, anyone? Okay. Okay, then let's get started with the content for today. So the first step, let me stop sharing and I'll reshare the screen. I hope you can see the screen. Okay, thank you. Just 1 minute. I'll set up my writing pad. Okay. Okay, people. So in the meantime, can anyone tell me what is a SIM and SIEM and what is SOAR? Whatever the idea you have, anything is good. Where are you guys not speaking? Am I being rude? Okay, so the first topic for the day 1, right? We are going to see the introduction of SIEM and SOAR, right? So SIEM and SOAR. Okay, hello Murugan.
Hey Ravani.
You are late.
Yeah, okay. I cannot give fine. Yeah.
No. Okay, right. Okay, people. So what is SIEM?
SIM card.
No, that is SIM.
Yes, I am. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So at least full form.
Initially, I thought security incident and event management. That is what I thought initially, but later I realized. Yeah.
Yes, Pratap. Do you want to give it a try? What is the full form of SIEM?
System information event management.
Sorry. I mean, your voice was not clear.
System information and event management.
Okay, right. The last 3 words are correct. The first word is actually security, right? It is security information and event management. Security information and event management. So now what this is, what does this mean? We are managing something, right, related to security. What are we managing? With SIM, we have lot of tools, right? Everyone will ask us for, we want to learn SIEM, we want to learn SIEM. What is it? Okay, right. So let me get into that. So SIEM is nothing but a system, right? Or you can say we have multiple tools to implement SIEM, right? It is a part of cybersecurity. So what does it actually do? It is, let's say we have 100 plus servers, or 100 plus servers, security devices, network devices, lot of devices, right? So from those devices, you have to collect the data and you have to store it somewhere. And using that information stored in a centralized place, you will use that for further alerts, to gain insights, to be specific, right? So for example, we have 100 plus devices. From these devices, you will be collecting the logs or data, and then you will be storing it in a centralized location. So why are we doing that? So all these devices has the capability of storing the data, right? If they are generating it, and they should be able to store it, right? Why are we still taking those logs and putting it in a centralized location?
Because everyone is lazy.
Okay. Yes,
It
sir.
will easy to manage.
Yes, that is
Analyze the
one main
logs.
reason. Yes. Yeah.
Analyze the
And
logs.
yes.
The
For monitoring purpose.
errors, system errors.
Okay, for monitoring and to manage the logs, right? And if multiple people has answers, you can also use the chat option, right? Now, okay, so there are, what you said is right, to manage the logs, right? To manage the logs in a single location, instead of moving back and forth between multiple devices and to identify the problems. If there is any issue, right, you can't go and log into 100 plus devices and check where the issue happened. That is not possible, right? So that is one of the reason why we are collecting the logs and storing it in a centralized location, right? And also your 100 plus devices, right, the network devices or whatever the servers, sorry, whatever the servers, right, they won't have enough storage actually, right? How much your router can store, right? Your router will also generate logs. All the network devices, all the security devices, all other databases, everything is generating logs, right? It differs from devices to devices, that it can store only a some amount of data based on the storage allocated to it, right? So it won't have that much amount of storage space, and it won't be able to store for much longer. If you want to keep 5 years of data, that won't be possible in your storage devices, I mean, sorry, storage of your network devices, right? Yeah. So that is not practically possible. So that is one of the reasons why you're bringing it to your centralized location. The other major reason is, okay, so the other one is, okay, 1 second, people. The other main reason which we talked is storage. And the third one, right? Let's say you have 100 GB of storage in each network devices. Even though if that device goes down, right, you won't be able to collect the logs of that devices, right? If any, if unfortunately, if something happens and if your server crashes, you won't be able to collect the logs which was stored in that server, right? So that is also one of the reason why we'll be storing it in a centralized location. So the third reason is single point of failure, you can say that, or point of failure, anything. You won't be able to retrieve the logs if your server got crashed, right? So these are the reasons why you have to store it in a centralized location. So this system is called SIEM, and that is where multiple tools comes into picture. We have Splunk, QRadar, and what else, we have ELK, right? Lot of devices, Microsoft Sentinel, right? There are lot of devices. So all these are going to be SIEM tools. So once your logs are stored in this centralized location, right, let's take Splunk for example. Once your data is stored into your Splunk, using that information, you will be able to derive multiple insights, and also you will be able to set up an automation using that, right? If any issues, you will be able to monitor it. That is one point. And if that issue is happening, you should do something to prevent that, right? So that is where SOAR comes into picture, right? So now coming back, I hope SIEM is clear what it is, right? Now let's go back to SOAR. So what is SOAR? What is the full form, and what does SOAR do? Okay, everyone is silent, right? So SOAR is nothing but security, the full form I'm telling, orchestration and automation and response. So from name, can anyone tell me what SOAR will actually do? Okay, right. So SIM, so we were talking, right? In that SIM, what it is doing, it is collecting the logs and it is helping you to monitor and analyze those logs, right? So that you will be able to create alerts, reports, and you can gather the information from it. But okay, everything is gathered and I analyzed it and I know what the problem is. So after that, what should I do? I can't sit and go back and do everything manually, right? So that's when your SOAR comes into picture, right? For example, you have all your logs stored in the Splunk. Okay, once all your logs are stored into Splunk, you see there are some logs, some security incidents that is being happening. Some user is you are getting a traffic from unknown location, unknown IP, right? So that should be treated critically, right? So you have those logs and you have identified what is the issue, but you can't sit and go to the back end of whatever the server where the problem is, and you can't fix it, right? For all the, if you have 1,000 plus servers or 1,000 plus devices, you can't do everything manually. So that is when you have SOAR, which will help you to automate the process, automate actions, to be specific, whatever the action which you have to do, right? So that will be done by your SOAR, automate actions, right? For example, the scenario which we are going to discuss in our session, right? So the brute force attack, once the brute force attack is triggered, right, your Splunk will be able to identify those logs and it will create an alert, okay, saying that there is a brute force attempt that is being happening, and that alert will trigger a playbook. Playbook is nothing but you can say some step by step procedure which you can create in SOAR, okay? That is called playbook. It is nothing but step by step procedure which you can create, which your SOAR will follow and it will implement it. For example, from a particular user, there was a multiple attempts, user attempts, right? And you want to disable that user. You have identified, right, from the logs which was collected from his server, you have identified that there is an unknown logins trying to happen in a short period of interval, like lot of login attempts, right? What you will do is that alert will trigger your playbook, and in playbook you should have configured to disable that account, right? So that is the use case which we'll be seeing. But now please understand, SIEM will collect and store your logs and it will help you to monitor and analyze those logs, and you can create an alert based on those whatever the logs you have collected, the information you have collected. And your SOAR, what will it do? It will automate the solution to prevent whatever the problem which it has occurred, okay? So this is an automation, and SIEM is just going to collect your logs and to analyze the logs, okay? Is this clear? Any doubt so far on the introduction?
No, it's clear.
Okay, great. Okay then. So now I have some terms which I want you guys to tell me what is the difference, right? So for example, let's say I have security data and we have security information and we have security event incident, security incident. So what is the difference? We who are working in cybersecurity, right? We people, we have used all these terms, right? But there is a difference between each term. So what is it? So what is the data, security data?
Data need to be secure.
Yes. Okay, right. Your data, right? So from a firewall, let's say, okay. Do we have answer? Collection of logs. Yes, that is correct. So let's say we have firewall, right? So from those firewall into Splunk, for example, if we are onboarding the logs, right? So those logs are nothing but your data, security data. This is a security device. So whatever the data collected from that device is called as a security data, okay, which is unprocessed data. Unprocessed data. Okay. Now, okay. So now security data is clear. And what about information?
Process data.
Processed data, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Data that gives meaning. That is exactly correct. Processed data that is meaningful. Data that gives a meaningful context, right? Context. And what about security event?
Security events mean like day-to-day event generated by the system.
Okay, right. Okay, an occurrence. Okay, right. An occurrence or the activity that happened, right? Both are correct. Now, so can anyone tell me any example?
Brute force attack.
Sorry?
Even security event like login details when we logged in system. The system generated some login event ID, I guess.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, right. So now the security event, right? On this term, we also have another one term, right, which we'll be using a lot in cybersecurity, right? Notable events. So what is it? So the definition, what you said for security event is correct. So now comes the other term, which is notable events. Can anyone tell me what notable events is?
Even something notable.
That is correct.
It's
So
something
what?
needs attention.
And
Something
even,
that need attention.
yes, yes, yes. So yeah, Anusha said, and even that shows it might be a threat. Yes. Okay. So now the security event, like you guys said, it is an activity, record of activity, right? Or the other one is occurrence. Something happened, so that is also being logged. Okay, so these are the events, right? Now when it comes to notable events, so all these activities are happening, right? But in that, if there is anything that might be notable, right, which you have to make a note of it and you have to address it to make sure that it is a problem or not, right? So that is the notable event. That might be a problem or it cannot be a problem, right? For example, let's say you're collecting the last 24 hours of logs from the firewall, right? So this is an a collection of events, right? You're just collecting the events and you're storing it in Splunk. Now in that, for example, around 4 o'clock in the morning, right, you see there was a like lot of traffic from an unknown IP. Just for 10 minutes. Okay. Lot of traffics from unknown IP. So now whatever the logs that got generated at this point of time, right, that 10 minutes. So these are notable events. Okay, you have to check that whether it is like it was any malicious activity or not, it is a threat or not. You have to check that. And if it is a not problem, no issues, we can just verify it and we can close that. But if that is a problem, we have to move to the next stage, right? So that is when that event is known to be malicious and it is threat, right? That is when it will be created as an incident. It will be considered as an incident which your SOC team will address. SOC team will check, investigate, and fix that issue. Okay. So is this clear on what is security event and when it is considered to be security incident? Okay. I hope these differences are clear. Right. Okay. Now, one final question before moving on to the Splunk, right? So we have in SOC, right? Sorry, SOC, we have 3 levels, L1, L2, L3. Here, the security incidents, we said everything will be handled by your SOC team. So what does this 3 levels of people do? Any idea? L1, L2, L3. Everyone is SOC analyst, right? What are they doing then?
L1, yes.
Yes, Himanshu. Please go
Yes,
ahead.
like L1 task is basic monitoring and log analysis, and if true like false positive or true positive event happened, so if true positive, so they escalate to L2
Yes.
officer.
Yes, exactly, right? So they'll be monitoring, basic monitoring, and if they see any notable events, right, whether it is a true positive or false positive, like you said, they have to raise it to L2. Okay, then what will the L2 do? So now the information is passed, right? The incident is raised and it is passed to L2. So what will the L2 people do?
Deep analysis and threat hunting.
Exactly, right? They'll do the threat hunting, basically the investigation, and they will fix it actually. Immediate fixes, right? Investigate and fix the issue. And then what does the L3 do then?
3 like manager role, like manage all these.
Yes.
L1, L2.
Right. So whatever these two people they have collected, right? So from L2 they have investigated what is the issue and they have fixed it, right? Issue is fixed, but the in future that issue has not to be occurred again, right? So that is when your L3 people will be focusing on, right? L3 people will do the root cause analysis on that, on the issue. Okay. And then they will talk with other team like SIEM admin, or your SOAR team and cybersecurity engineers. It differs from case to case, right? They will talk with all other teams and then they will try to automate the fix for it, right? They will try to find the permanent solution. They will identify the root cause and then they will find the permanent solution for it, and they'll also try to automate that. Okay, so that is the work of L3 people, right? They are trying to make sure that nothing will happen, whatever things happened in the past should not occur in the future, and also they'll try to reduce the manual effort which was done by the L2 people, right? They were fixing it manually, right? So they will be talking with all other teams and try to come up with a solution so that the manual load will also be reduced and the problem will also be solved. So these are the overview of L1, L2 and L3. SOC analyst, right? Any doubts here? Is this clear what all these 3 level of people are doing? Okay, great. Okay, then now let's come to the actual topic for today, right? So whatever we have discussed is just introduction part, right? Before getting into the Splunk, you should know what are these. Now let's go to Splunk side, right? Let me go to the slide. So we have Splunk, right? So we also know it is a SIEM tool. So this is the icon for Splunk, right? One Splunk enterprise. So now there is something called multiple components in Splunk, right? This is a single software, which is a Splunk enterprise. There is also multiple components in Splunk. So what are those components?
Search it, index it, forward it.
Yes. That is correct. So we have, we have search it, we have indexer, and we have forwarders. In the forwarders, we have 2 different types. One is universal forwarder, one is heavy forwarder. So what does these do? So people who worked on that, can you give a brief one-liner on what each component will do? Okay, right. Your search it, you will be onboarding the data, right, into your Splunk environment. The forwarders will collect the data from your data source. Okay, it will collect the data, and in your indexer, the data will be stored. Okay, and in the search it, once the data is sourced, once the data is stored, that data will be searched by your users in the search it. Okay, they won't be logging into this indexer and search it. No, that is not how it works. So the search it, there is a dedicated component which users can use to search the data. So these are the components. Okay, so this is a single Splunk enterprise. If you ask me whether all these works, which is split by these components, right, can it be done in a single enterprise? Yes, your single enterprise can do all the activities which is done by the 3 components. But why are we still going for 3 different components? We'll discuss the reasoning in some time. Okay, so now the components are clear, right? What are the components we have and what each component is doing, right? Forwarder will collect your logs, indexer will store your data, and searcher will help the users to search that data, right? Now let's go back to the let's move to next topic, which is phases in Splunk data pipeline. So whatever the data which is entering into your Splunk environment, right, it will go through something called data pipeline. In that, there will be multiple phases. Okay, multiple configurations that will get applied on your data before it is getting indexed and searched in your data, right? So now let's say we have some servers, some set of servers, and it has logs generated in it. Now I'm onboarding those logs into the Splunk, and finally we have some beautiful dashboard created there. Okay, so this is the overview. Now what are the steps that is involved from collecting the logs to the creating a dashboard, right? In layman terms, you don't have to specify the technical Splunk terms, right? But what is actually happening? So yeah,
First, the data collection, and then data processing, and then we need to store the data, and then we need to search, and we need to do representation.
exactly. Yes. So what the Splunk is actually doing is it will collect the data collection, and then data formatting, right? Whatever the data it is being sent into your Splunk, right? It will be some data will be in structured format, some data will be in an unstructured format. So that formatting has to be done, and then we have the data storage. The data has to be stored, and we can search the data, and finally that data will be displayed in a dashboard. All the dashboards, right, it has the search query which will run. Only then your data will be populated, right? So that's why data searching and then data display. Now we have multiple forwarders, right? All these activities will be done in different components, right? We saw in the previous slide, right? We have 3 different components, and each component will be capable of doing these activities. So we have the universal forwarder, which will collect the data, right? And we have indexer to store the data, and we have searcher, which will be used for data searching and data display. But this data formatting, right, where it will be done, in the universal forwarder or in the indexer?
Some part happens on the universal forwarder, some part happens on the indexer.
Yes, that is correct. Partial formatting will be done in your forwarder. Partial formatting will be done in your indexer based on which forwarder you are using as well. We saw 2 different types of forwarders, right? Based on that also, this condition will be applied. We'll see that in upcoming slides. Now, each of these activities will relate to a phase in Splunk data pipeline. Your data collection is nothing but it is an input phase, right? And then we have the data formatting, which is called as a parsing phase, and data storage, which is an indexing phase, and data searching, it is a search phase, right? We have 4 phases here. All these are called as phases in Splunk data pipeline, right? Now, we have 4 phases here, and let's say we have unstructured data. When your data is unstructured, like log files, text files, mainframe data, right, all these will go through all the 4 phases, right? When it comes to your structured data like JSON, CSV, tab separated, pipeline separated, HEC, right, so these are structured data. When this structured data is being onboarded into your Splunk, there will be 5 phases actually. Okay, there is something called structured parsing which gets involved in your structure when it is trying to parse your structured data. Why is that? We should actually have like the structured data is already structured, so the work should be less, right, when it is formatting, because parsing is nothing but formatting. Your data is already structured, so your formatting has to be reduced, but we have an additional parsing here, structured parsing. Why is that? Any idea? No. Okay, right. So, since we have a structured parsing, an additional phase, that doesn't mean it will take a lot of time, or that additional parsing will be more important here. It is actually to optimize the performance, right? When your structured data is getting entered, your structured parsing, which is nothing but a subset of your parsing activity, all right? So here, in the unstructured data, only the parsing activity is happening, but in structured data we have structured parsing happening, which is nothing but a subset of parsing activity. Why we are splitting it, you may ask? If it is a subset, the parsing is enough, right? Why are we having a structured parsing, right? Because the structured parsing will be happening in your universal forwarder. Your universal forwarder is also capable of doing the structured parsing, right? We said partial formatting will be done in the forwarder, right? Your universal forwarder, it won't be able to parse unstructured data, right? One point to be clear, your universal forwarder will not parse your unstructured data. Only in case of structured data, this structured parsing will happen in your universal forwarder. If you are onboarding unstructured data using your universal forwarder, there won't be any parsing happening in your universal forwarder itself. All the parsing will be done in the other components. Okay, so the structured parsing is nothing but a subset of parsing activity. Since that can be done in your universal forwarder, we are specifying it separately. If the universal forwarder is not in the picture, you don't have to specify it here separately. Okay, this is just for your knowledge, right? If someone asks whether the universal forwarder is capable of parsing, right, you should know, yes, it can do a partial parsing, which is called structured parsing. So that is the aim of this slide. Now, moving on to the next slide. When timestamp is assigned, okay, I have a scenario here. We have four phases which we talked, or you can take 5, right? So, in which phase timestamp will be assigned? In all the logs we have timestamp, right? So that timestamp will get applied to your events in your Splunk. So in which phase that activity will happen? Any idea? We have input, parsing, indexing, searching. In which phase?
Not on the input phase, not on the search
Definitely.
phase. Yeah.
Yes, yes, that is correct. So that will be done in your parsing phase, right? I'll show you. So now here we have two different set of forwarders. One is a universal forwarder in which we are onboarding data from a log file, and the same scenario where we are using a heavy forwarder. So heavy forwarder is nothing but a Splunk enterprise, right? For the people who are watching it new and you don't know what is a heavy forwarder, so the same Splunk enterprise package, it is used for a different purpose to collect only the data, right? So that is called heavy forwarder. Your universal forwarder is a separate package. It is a lightweight version of your heavy forwarder, right? Where in heavy forwarder you will be able to do lot of activities and it will have multiple packages, but your universal forwarder is a lightweight agent which you can install on top of your data source itself. But in heavy forwarder that is not possible. Heavy forwarder should be set up in a dedicated server itself. Okay, your data has to be forwarded to your heavy forwarder, but in universal forwarder it can be installed on top of your data source to collect the data. So that is the difference between universal forwarder and heavy forwarder. Now let's say we have both these forwarders, and your logs are being sent to your indexer and it is stored in a index, which is nothing but a folder within your Splunk. Okay, now so these are the four phases, right? In this parsing phase, your timestamp extraction will be happening. Now, the next question is where this parsing phase will happen, right? We have multiple components here. So in which component your input phase will happen, in which component your parsing phase, indexing and searching, all those activities will happen. If you use only standalone Splunk, no issues. All the phases will be happening in the same Splunk itself. But here we have multiple components to do all those activities, which means your phases will be split, right? So in which component your parsing will happen? Any idea? I already told the answer in the previous slide itself.
Index.
In indexer, when you're talking about universal forwarder, your parsing will happen in your indexer. In the heavy, when you're using heavy forwarder also, will the parsing happen in indexer? Yes or no? Any idea? Okay. What is the answer? Yes. Okay, right. Okay. Now, let's say when it involves your universal forwarder is directly being connected to your indexer, right? Your universal forwarder is capable of input and structured parsing, right? Let's leave the structured parsing for now. Let's say because anyways, it is a log file, it is an unstructured data. We are onboarding the unstructured data. So leave the structured parsing out of the context now. So we have only four phases, right? Now in the universal forwarder, when you're onboarding, the input will happen in your universal forwarder, and in the heavy forwarder also input will happen. Now when you're talking about heavy forwarder, right, as it is a full package as a indexer, your heavy forwarder is capable of doing the parsing activity. Okay, so in this flow from the heavy forwarder to the indexer, your timestamp will be extracted in the heavy forwarder itself. Okay, so the parsing, when it comes to the heavy forwarder, it will happen in that server itself. And then indexing and searching will be done in your indexer. We don't have the search it here. If not, the searching will happen there. We have only indexer here. So indexing and searching will be happening in the indexer. Now, when we talk about this connection from the universal forwarder to the indexer, your data is being forwarded, right? So here in this connection, parsing will be done in your indexer, because universal forwarder is not capable of parsing your unstructured data. Okay, right. So now, but is this right? Can we parse the data in indexer? Can we format the data in the indexer?
Technically, it is possible. Yes.
Yes, it is possible. Is it right?
Good question.
It is possible, but should we do it? Is it a good practice?
No.
Yes. So your indexer is heart of your environment, right? Where all your data is being stored. By making your indexer do the parsing activity, you are putting additional load on your indexer. Your indexer should only index your data, which means store your data, and if searcher is trying to search, it should return the results, right? So that is the only work your indexer should do. Putting the parsing, by making the parsing happening in your indexer, you are putting more load on your indexer than doing its own work, which may sometime, for example, if you get a huge amount of data in some time, it may lead to crashing of your indexer if your resources are not enough, right? Resources in the sense ram, like cpu, memory disk, right? If that is not enough in your indexer may also crash, which will lead to data loss. Okay, so always make sure parsing is not happening in your indexer, right? You should not allow the parsing to happen in the indexer. But your universal forwarder is also not capable of doing the parsing, right? Then where should I do the parsing, right? That is a good question. We can't not allow the parsing to be happening. That is also not correct, right? So in that case only, we have to go for another forwarder. We have to create a heavy forwarder, and we have to make it as an intermediate forwarder between your universal forwarder and indexer, so that your parsing will be done in your intermediate heavy forwarder, right? So yeah, this will need you to create a new server and to create a new Splunk enterprise, and it is extra effort and extra cost, right? But this will save the load which you are putting on your indexer. Okay, this is an additional server where you will route the data from your universal forwarder to the intermediate heavy forwarder, and from the intermediate heavy forwarder, your data will be sent to your indexer, which will remove the load of parsing, and your intermediate heavy forwarder will take care of it. Right? So this is the right flow when you are talking about universal forwarder. Okay. Any questions here? Okay. Right. Okay. Now. So we were talking this. So the phases are done. Okay. So this components and phases, we have some scenario, right? Which we'll discuss. I'll give you as the slides. Hello. Am I audible? Hello.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Audible.
Thank you. Okay, great. Thank you. So this, I'll give it as an assignment for you, right? So what we have did here is, we have listed all the 4 components. We have searcher, indexer, universal forwarder, and heavy forwarder. And I have written the phases: input, parsing, structured parsing, which can be done by your heavy forwarder, and input and structured parsing can be done by your universal forwarder, and parsing and indexing. So here we have listed what are the things that can be done by the each server. Okay, doing the parsing is right or wrong, that is different discussion which we did in the previous slide, right? But your indexer is capable of doing parsing, so we have listed it here. And then we have the search it, which is doing the searching activity. So based on this, we have few scenarios. Scenario 1, we have 4 scenarios, I believe. I'll give this as a PPT to you guys, handouts. You guys can practice this and come back. And if you have any questions, we can discuss it, right, in the next session. So I have one more topic, which is a very short topic. I'll cover that and we can close for today, and we'll continue in the next session, right? So let's leave the components and the phases as an assignment. Yeah. So this is the topic. Why do we need 3 different components, right? In the first slide itself, we were discussing, right? Why can't we manage it with a single Splunk component with the big resources, right? Why is that? Why do we have to go for 3 different components? When a single Splunk is capable of doing all the phases which we talked just now, why should we still go for 3 different components? Any idea? Okay, right. So there are 3 major reasons. Okay, we have an answer. If any outage happens, yes, that is one point which is correct, to avoid single point of failure. More or less, both are same. And any other reasons? Okay, right. So this two answer is correct, right? Performance issue, yes. Performance, yes. Second reason is also right. And we have one more. Scaling, yes. Scalability, yes. Your answers are right. All the three you got it right. Okay. So now let's see how it is affecting with the single Splunk and why are we going for three different components. So the first reason is performance impact, and the second reason is single point of failure, and third one is scalability. Right. So these are the three main reasons why we can't use a single Splunk and we have to navigate to multiple Splunk components. Right. So now let's see each with the reasoning. Let's take a single Splunk, right? We have a single Splunk enterprise in which when you're onboarding data, all these four phases will be happening: data input, parsing, indexing, searching. Okay. For example, if you're onboarding a huge amount of data, okay, at that time your Splunk will be receiving the data and it will be formatting it, and it will be storing, right? And so this activity itself, it will consume more CPU usage. Let's say at that time, 10 of your users are trying to log in and search for the data. What will happen?
Result slow.
Yeah, the search will be very slow. It will be taking a lot of time to load the search results because all your CPU is being consumed with the first three phases of your data pipeline, right? So when the searching is happening at the same time, right, your search results will be very low, right? So this is what we are saying as a performance impact. Okay. Now, the second one, single point of failure. Obviously, if any outage happens and if something happens to the server which is running your Splunk enterprise, right, none of this activity can be done. You can't input the data, you can't index the data, right? Everything is done. So that is the single point of failure. If the Splunk goes down, all the phases are done, right? So the last one, scalability, right? We have searcher, indexer, and forwarder. When it comes to a single Splunk, right, if I just want, for example, I'm going to onboard 10 different users to my environment who's going to search the data in my Splunk. Okay. If it is your standalone Splunk, you have to increase the resources again. Okay. But here, in this case, if your users are being increased, you can just increase the count of search it. You don't have to increase the entire resource of your Splunk, which will also be very costly, and there will also be some limitation, right? There will be only some amount of resources that we'll be able to make it happen, right? But if it is case if this is the case where we are using three different components, right, we can increase the number of searches if you are talking about onboarding more users. Okay. And then if you are talking about increased storage, I'm going to onboard a lot of data, right? Suddenly I'm going to increase 100 GB of data, right? In that case, you can increase the number of forwarders to onboard the data, and you can increase the indexer to store that extra amount of 100 GB, right? If you want to increase the storage, you can directly go ahead and you can increase the indexer. And if you're talking about multiple data sources, I want to onboard data from 10,000 data sources, right? If that is the case, you can increase the number of forwarders. So when you're using three different components, it gives you the flexibility when it comes to scaling. Based on our need, we can increase it, and we can also maintain it based on our cost optimization, right? So these are the three main reasons why we have to go for three different components instead of a single Splunk enterprise. Okay, people. So that's it for today. Any questions here? Whatever the topics we have discussed so far. Okay. Was the session good? Was informative? Any feedbacks? Yes, Himanshu. Sorry.
Good, ma'am. Good session.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Any improvement points which has to be done? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, people. If you have any suggestions or feedbacks, please feel free to let us know. You can put it in the chat in the WhatsApp group, or you can inform us directly in the call as well, right? So So this is it for today. I want you guys to go through 2 more concepts before coming to the next session so that we can carry on with our hands-on part in the next session, right? So where you can go to path.softmania.in and you can click on Explore Splunk projects. Here in the first project, right, you scroll down, there is a session called Splunk Architecture Basics, right? I'll share the link with you. So these 2 topics which we have already covered, why to have 3 different separate components and phases in Splunk data pipeline. These 2 we have already discussed. You can find the documents for it here. Whatever the slides which I was presenting, right, it is available here, which you can refer. And the components I was talking, right, you can refer that here. All the 4 scenarios are here, which you can use it as a practice. So now the other 2 is there, right? Where to deploy app or add-on. If it is a single Splunk, you will be directly installing your app or add-on in that. But here we have multiple components. So where we have to deploy the app or add-on. So that is what addressed here, which you can watch this recording, right? Okay, that record, please check again later. So I'll check with the team. That recording was there actually. Let me check. Okay. So this topic and then how to choose a forwarder for a particular scenario. So these 2 topics I want you guys to go through. There will be a document, right? Or else in the previous session, previous batch 1 recording I have already covered, which you can refer as well. So just go through from your side, and if you have any doubts, please come back in the next session. We can discuss and proceed to the next topic, right? So in next session, we'll be starting with the hands-on, where we'll set up the Splunk SIEM environment. We'll be installing all the 3 different components and we'll set it up. Okay. Okay, then if there is no further questions, we can close the call for today.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes, Priyanka, this is the assignment. I want you to go through these 2 topics which I shared right now. Where to deploy app or add-on and how to choose forwarder for the particular scenario. So these 2 I want you to go through. Yeah, thank you, Dev. Yeah. Is it good? The assignment, is it clear? I'll also put the link in the group as well, right? After this session, you can refer that one as well. Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Bye.